It's time for Howlers and Growlers. A weekly show from our Arizona Coyotes writing pack, bringing you the latest news, rumors, trades, player grades, prospects, and much more. From training camp to the playoffs, from draft day to the trade deadline, our team covers everything ice hockey in the hot desert. So sit back, grab your favorite cold beverage, and get ready for Howlers and Growlers.
Welcome to Howlers and Growlers. I'm your host, Pat Brown. Joining me as always is my line mate, Haynes Evans, and we are thrilled to have you join us for another show. And today is a special one because we are thrilled to welcome back award-winning writer, director, and producer, including Soul on Ice, past, present, and future. A man who's been working directly with the NHL to help elevate diversity and promote Black hockey history, and is joining us for the second time, Kwame Mason. Kwame, thank you for joining us again. How you doing?
Good. Just here in Philadelphia, doing the hotel life.
Yeah.
Watching the Last Dance for what is this? Probably my fourth time watching that series.
Oh, I can quote that series. We'll have to take that offline because I think my favorite line from that is "Way to go, Craig." But that's neither here nor there. Anyways, I don't want to drive us off track. Thank you for joining us. We've got a lot to talk about. It was great having you on before, and just for you at home, and we'll talk about this a little bit more. But if you're dropping it the same day, if you're watching this the same day this episode drops, a new series, NHL Bound, that Kwame has produced is dropping literally today if you're watching this on Thursday. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Before we press on, for you at home, want to remind you this is being brought to you by the Hockey Writers coverage for the race for hockey gold at the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics. We've got 3 solid weeks of wall-to-wall coverage. I'm actually going to be watching the Sweden game tonight and putting a recap out there in the morning. So make sure you're checking out our wall-to-wall coverage of both men's and women's Olympic tournaments. We've got roster and player analysis, game previews, recaps, commentary, more. If you're watching Olympic hockey, you need to be following the Hockey Writers. So that's out of the way. Let's get down to business. As I mentioned before, today's episode is truly special. We're going to have an open and frank conversation here with Kwame, especially given some of these recent events that have transpired in the hockey world. Kwame, you've worked very, very closely with the NHL and the Arizona Coyotes, obviously, around helping promoting diversity, inclusion, equity around the league. And we want to talk to you about the Coyotes in a little bit. But right now, just being open and honest, some pretty troubling things have happened within the world of hockey recently, right here in North America as well. So Haynes, with that lead in, we've got some questions for Kwame, and you're on the clock. So what you got?
Yeah. So Kwame, as you know, there's been recent incidents of racism in North America, especially with the AHL, with Boko Imama and Tucson, and with Jordan Subban with the ECHL South Carolina Stingrays, which means a lot to me because it's who I covered last year. They gave me my first start in journalism. So to see that happen was terrible, and honestly, something needs to change. But in your opinion, what needs to happen to start to, kind of foster the change here?
Well, the only thing that can happen, in my opinion, is to have severe punishments to, players that want to get involved in that type of behavior.
Sure.
And then hopefully these leagues, these organizations, hockey in general, will fester a community that is interested in history. One of the big things hockey always brags about is that it helps create strong men and women for our community. And if that's the mantra, if that's the history behind hockey, then we have to do a better job of, teaching men and women in the game of hockey to be good people. And to be good people, you just, one of the things is, let's not be a bigot or let's not be a racist. Mm-hmm. Now, going back to my first point, to me it's the strongest of the two, because you're not gonna eradicate racism. You're not gonna end racism. That's just, it's part of our life. That's Black people have been trying to get away from racism for over 400 years.
Sure.
2022, you're not gonna come up with something that all of a sudden, oh, okay, you know what? Let's just stop being racist. It's gonna happen, and you're gonna find that in all industries, I don't care what sport you have, you're gonna find a racist in there somewhere, shape, or form. But what you can do to deter overtly racist behavior is to have a very strong and stringent punishment. So, for example, if you say something racial, or you do racial comments or whatever, gestures and all that, 60 games automatically, and you have to go through training. Trust me, the next guy that is going to think about saying something greasy like that, they're going to think, can I afford to lose 60 games? I'm trying to be a pro.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose 60 games, along with having that stank on you. Back in the days, even like 2 years ago, guys would say all what they would want to say, and they would get away with it. But you start pushing harsher punishments, you'll see it starting to deter.
So makes perfect sense. Now let me ask you, because obviously Jacob Panetta, who was involved in the ECHL incident with Jordan Subban, he has since said that he was misunderstood.
Yeah.
His teammates have come out as well. They released a statement in support of him, and it's a tough situation. So I'm curious, for your point of view, what's an appropriate response to both Panetta's statement and his teammates' subsequent press release in your eyes?
I heard all that and stuff like that. Honestly, it was interesting to me, because I said, okay, it's going to get tricky now, because he could easily say, because I remember the first time that happened, and when I saw that, I said to myself, man, he's going to say he's doing the Hulk Hogan pose.
Yeah.
He's going to say that. That's what they're going to run with. And he has to run with that. He has to stick with that. He's got to live. He's got to die by that. Only person that is really going to be able to really break down what that gesture was is Jordan Subban, and those who directly could look at that guy's face.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care what anybody says online. You can't tell. You can't.
Right.
You don't know.
Right.
But if you saw his face, you would know what motion he was making. And even if Jordan took it that way, you got to be like, okay, well, fine. You're saying you did it and it meant this way, but Jordan took it one way.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to me, as far as their statement goes, I mean, they got it. Like, shit, you know what I mean? You got to defend yourself. So you're going to say whatever you're going to say. So to me, the biggest thing, like, if I were in that situation, if I saw Jordan, and I've met Jordan, I've done some stuff with Jordan before, I would be like, yo, Jordan, what was his facial expression?
Absolutely.
If he was making like gorilla, like, you don't do that without the gorilla face.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Something. So that's the part for me that, where it got tricky for me. I was just like, even when it first came out, I was like, I'm staying out of this one.
Understandably so. Yeah. And appreciate the insight, I think, and I'm in absolutely no position to get on a soapbox. From my observation too, I think you can tell from Jordan's reaction as well.
He got something.
Yeah.
So regardless, like, even if you were doing that whole, as a black person, yeah, you could do that. Okay, but as a black person, we fighting, we're in that, and you make that move, I'm thinking that you're trying to mock me, like you're trying to do something. I'm coming at you. And if after you said, I was just trying to make the Hulk Hogan move or whatever. Yeah, at the moment, the heated moment, no.
Yeah, well, certainly appreciate the insight. Not an easy thing to talk about. Not an easy thing to talk about.
I
but
don't see why it's not. It's easy to talk about. What's so hard about it? Like, yo,
no, that's fair.
Be honest. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
I'm trying to tell people, like, yo, for me, I don't think it's a hard thing to say. Like, when I look at that, I don't know. I know what I think Jordan is. I know how I know where Jordan's coming from, but I also know that excuse that he's making, he can actually ride off of that.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? There's precedent. There's like that.
Yeah.
Guys do that.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, it's you know what I mean? Like he said, he got other video of that and then doing that to other guys and stuff like that. But I'm just saying, I know if I'm Jordan Subban and my back is turned and I turn a little bit and I see you doing that, just as a Black person, knowing that that's probably not the first time somebody's done that to Jordan Subban, I'm taking your head off.
Yeah. And like, to your point, obviously we've talked about these things in North America. Haynes, this isn't just a problem in North America. I think you've got a question.
Yeah. Like Pat said, this is something that has been seen overseas as well. Jalen Smerek, former Coyotes prospect, was the victim of an incident like this in the Ukrainian Hockey League. And ultimately the league, because of their horrendous response of their punishment they gave out to this guy for what he did, the gesture he
punishment.
Did was, punishment. The gesture he did was so blatant and so offensive, and they essentially gave him a slap on the wrist for what he did and let him pay his way out of it. And I just kind of want to know what you think. Do you see even a bigger issue globally here?
But that's again, it's not. I mean, because we're focused on hockey, is it a bigger issue? Not necessarily, because it just is an issue. I mean, you're. That's why I always tell people, don't worry about diversity. Worry more about inclusion. Yeah. The reason why these guys can go do a slap on the wrist because what do they care? What do they care about any Black guy? They don't care. They don't got no Black. I'm sure they don't got no Black friends. They probably don't have no Black people working for them. So who cares? So hey, the guy made that. You know what? Let him pay a little fine, give him 2 games, let's just keep it moving. There's not even a lot of Black people in our stands. There's not even a lot of Black people playing, so who cares? They're not thinking about the overall culture of hockey, the overall industry of hockey. They're concerned about their little small pocket. Yep. You know what I mean? And usually that's where bigots, and people with racist behaviors, that's where they really take off, because they've got this little silo that they're dealing with. And that silo allows them to fester that way of thinking, not thinking about everybody else. Racists and bigots are very selfish people. They don't care about humanity. They don't care about human beings. They care about their little pocket. Yeah. And so is there a bigger picture, a bigger, nah, man, it's just, it's not surprising.
And to your point, with the first question, what do you do to stop or help prevent this type of behavior? With increased punishments comes all of a sudden they're feeling it in the wallet.
Yeah. That's it. Like in North America, I mean, them Europe and all that, man, you're like, that's a whole different, we can't concern ourselves with that because we can't, But in North America, if you're in the minor leagues, if you're in junior hockey, you're not going to see that in the NHL. Yep. There's nobody stupid enough to do that in the NHL in this day and age. That's just not going to happen. But AHL going down lower, you might see that. Travel teams, you might see that. And for me, USA Hockey, Hockey Canada, they have to just have mandates with these leagues and saying, this is your punishment for sexist behavior. This is your punishment for racial behavior. And they're all high numbers. Yeah. Because if you're 15 years old and it's your draft year, or 16 years old and it's your draft year, you are not going to put yourself. Look at that kid from the Coyotes, the kid.
Yeah. Absolutely. It all comes back to the Coyotes one way or another. You see that?
Yeah. Well, you see what happened? Like, where is he? Yeah. He ain't never going to play in the National Hockey League. He is never going to. And just think about that. to get the opportunity to play in the National Hockey League,
Yes.
you probably had to start playing hockey by the age of 4, maybe 5, maybe 5. If you're lucky, if you're a talent at 5. So that's what, 15 years of dreaming, training, investing in money, time. You finally get to that point where you're a couple of months away from somebody saying, you know what, we're going to pick you. We're going to pick you. And you say some, or you do something like that, sexist, racist, done. That's done. Like, so now that's why I'm saying, like, as long as the punishment is high and people understand that, it's going to curb their behavior. I cannot, somebody will do it, but I'd be like, yo, you really, and you're a talented player, really want to call somebody Edward? You really want to do that?
Well, right. Exactly. So, go ahead, Haynes.
Well, it's perfect what you said there, Kwame, because, the ECHL kind of just that, kind of took that initiative of, banning Jacob Panetta first off from the rest of the season, and then saying if he even does come back next season and plays, he's going to be facing suspension we're looking at least half the season from what I've been heard. He's going to face half the suspension, and then the team released on top of that. And like you said, the league like the ECHL, where these guys are making anywhere between $500 and maybe $2,000 a night on a paycheck, that speaks a lot for a nature like a guy. Why would you, even if it wasn't intended to be that, why would you do that? And it's a great response from the ECHL to say, we're not going to put up with that down here in the minor leagues. You want to do that, you will not play again the rest of this league. And if you even do come back next year, we're going to suspend you for half the season, and watch how much money you don't make when you have to go pick up a job somewhere else.
And, you think that guy's going to ever get a shot at the NHL?
No.
Right.
No,
exactly.
Right there, no.
Done. Exactly.
So for all those guys out there that have that in the back of the head, like, hey, man, that's on you. To me, I'm not even worried about all the, like, yo, you get caught doing that, that's on you, bro. Like, you
for sure.
Your life. If you want to ruin your life like that, then, you go right ahead, because at the end of the day, it's just a word.
Yep.
But a word, it's going to hurt you more than it's going to hurt any person of color nowadays. Before, it would hurt a person of color more because you get away with it. They'd have to be on their own about that. But now, I'd laugh. If I was on the ice and you called me the N-word, I'd be like, really? Okay. Hey, man, I'll see you at McDonald's.
I
just remember, I don't like salt on my fries.
There you go. I like that.
What I would say.
Can't begin to understand the impact of that word and what that feels like, for lack of a better term. But there's no place in it. There's just no place for it anywhere, let alone professional sports and aspiring athletes who are trying to turn into something. So I think super good perspective. I'm gonna take a quick timeout. Still gotta pay some bills and remind everybody at home to check out the Hockey Writers.
You guys getting paid? You guys are paying bills?
Well, paying bills.
I'm sponsored, man.
At home, check out the Hockey Writers for the Olympic coverage. Like I said, I'm going to stay up tonight and watch Sweden at 2 a.m. So you don't have to. You can wake up and just check out the recap in the morning. But we've got both the men's and women's tournaments covered. Like I said, you're not going to want to be up at 2 a.m. watching the games. So check out the Hockey Writers in the morning for all the previews, all the recaps, and everything in between. All right, bills are paid. I do have kind of a personal question for you on the back half of our show. Okay. Kwame, because, we've talked about kind of your views on what things that have happened. I do want our viewers to know what your personal experience with racism in hockey has been. You've been in the game a long time. You're from Toronto, I believe, right? I mean, hockey mecca, Hall of Fame, everything else. You've been involved with hockey a long time. What is your personal experience with racism been in hockey?
Honestly, I haven't dealt with anything that was overtly racist, horror stories or anything like that. You know what I mean? For me, it was just not a game that was inviting or made me feel like I could be a part of. Like when I was younger and I played, like, and it didn't have to, I don't don't think it was like a color or skin thing. It's just, I had nobody that said, hey, let me show you the right way of doing this.
Sure.
You know, as far as, you know, the invitation to the game through peers and people, it was just considered a white boy sport. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
it was a sport that, you know, regardless of what your color was, if you were black and, you know, you had friends that in the hockey, be like, yo, that's for white boys. So look, what are you doing? And for white guys to you, they'd be like, black people don't play hockey, you know, your ankles are too small, and black people don't like the cold, and that, you know what I mean? So you're caught in between, you're caught in this box of what people do and what people don't do, right? So
Sure.
I've never dealt with that in that space. I dealt with that in like soccer, you know, when I played, and just life in general, you know what I mean? But yeah, not specifically from hockey, you know, but you know, you see it, you hear about it.
Yep. So, well, let's talk about maybe making some strides now, because I don't want the whole show to be a downer, if you will. So, Haynes, what you got for us?
Yeah. So, the NHL kind of has had many documented incidents of racism in the last few years, and they're not the only one. The NFL, especially with Brian Flores going on right now, the whole deal going with him, and would you say overall is the league kind of above, below, or kind of on par with other leagues in terms of helping foster an acceptance in a diverse environment?
I think it's at its own pace. I don't like to compare it with other leagues, because other leagues and how they present the game is much different from how the NHL presents the game, and where the game has come from. So I just look at it as, this is a game that's been around for 100 years. And for 100 years, it's kind of had its blinders on, and it's been in one way, right?
Yeah.
So the league is now pivoting, saying we want to be more inclusive and we want to become more diverse. And they're working hard to go in that direction, I think. And I think, they're trying their best,
Sure. So let's talk about Willie O'Ree for a minute, because obviously the congressional medal in the US was just signed into law.
Yeah.
And a big deal, probably long overdue, but it happened. So in terms of things like that taking place, can that help foster inclusion, acceptance, or is that like checking off a proverbial box in your eyes?
I think it just helps in the sense that it just normalizes the presence of the Black people in the game of hockey. It just normalizes that, I don't think it's checking off a box. I don't think that it's well overdue. It's due at its time, everything has its time. I just think it's just great, and it's great to honor somebody who's put in so many years just to be around these kids and tell their story. Like, history is so important for growing games and growing sports industries. It's great to just honor and recognize people. And, I think his presence gives the game a better telling of its story and its history.
Yeah.
Part of it. So, it's great that he got to do that. Like, Gretzky don't even have that yet.
Absolutely. Well, let's wrap with some Coyotes talk, because you and I met when you were down here this summer for the coaching internship program that you worked on with Javier Gutierrez and Bill Armstrong and the Coyotes. And Dante Abercrombie and Nathaniel Brooks were part of that you now have a series, NHL Bound, literally dropping today being the day we are releasing this episode. I've seen the trailer, not only from online, but they're playing it at Gila River Arena, and it is fire. Like, cannot wait to see that drop. So I want to first have you talk about the Coyotes, because you said it back then, and I alluded to it the phrase before, you could feel the Coyotes weren't just checking off a box with this. So I'd like you to talk about the Coyotes, and then are there any other teams in the NHL that you see taking these types of steps? Are you able to work with other teams the way you've been working with the Coyotes?
Yeah, I mean, so for those listening, NHL Bound is out right now. Go to youtube.com/NHL and you'll see it out there. It's episode 1. There's 4 episodes. And so
I'll drop a link in the comments section on the YouTube channel.
Great. So every Thursday. So again, it's such a special project to work on, special idea to come up with and work with the Coyotes to make it happen. I think it's just, again, another piece of storytelling for the game of hockey, and something that we're hoping is going to change the lives of 2 young men who love the game of hockey and who want and have dreams of being coaches one day in the National Hockey League. I know that there has been discussions from the NHLCA, which is the coaching association, and I hear that 4 other teams want to do something like this.
Awesome.
So,
you're gonna be busy, is what you're saying.
I guarantee everybody's going to do it. They're going to forget about me. I think
disagree there, but go on.
I think what's cool, like when I was at All-Star Weekend and the Coyotes had a great party. I guess it's the Sahara.
I was at the Sahara, right? Yeah.
So,
coincidentally, the owner owns that casino.
That's what I'm saying. So we were there for their party and just being around them and just talking about it. I think what's really cool is being able to do something that will eventually become something bigger. And, in my opinion, I think within the next 5 years, I feel like every team in the National Hockey League will do an NHL Bound type of program, bringing in diverse coaches to work with their coaching staff in their development camp or whatever camp it is, to just learn from those with experience and to be able to get themselves one step further. And so it's really cool that the Coyotes are doing it first. It's really cool that I've been a part of it, and we'll see what happens, man.
On a personal note, anything you've got in the pipeline, anything you're working on, whether it's hockey related or not?
Yeah, right. Well, right now I'm in Philadelphia, but I'm just gonna go do some interviews tomorrow. I'm working on this project that is involved with Black women in the game of hockey.
Nice.
Just to show another different perspective. That's what I'm focused on right now. So glad to always join you guys.
Yeah. It's a privilege, if nothing else, to have you on, Kwame, and to get your perspective. And we met back in, I don't know what it was, September, August, whenever, and nothing but respect for everything that you're doing and what you're bringing to the game, and appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to talk about it. I won't leave you alone. I'll keep pestering you. So I'm sure
I'll be out there. I'll be out there with the Black History Month truck. I think it's coming there at the end of April. So
sweet. Yeah, let me know. Give me a shout. And we will connect for sure. So thank you so much for taking the time to be on our humble show. At home, in case I haven't convinced you with my first 2 plugs, make sure to check out the Hockey Writers for our Olympic coverage. Like I said, we're going to stay up late, get those recaps and previews out so that you don't have to, and make sure everything's covered. So thanks at home for watching. Kwame, thank you so much again for joining us. Can't wait to have you on whenever that may be next time. So we will see you next time, and cheers.